evening, family. We are here tonight, and you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to get started. And we are here tonight, and I am so happy to say that I have my brother from another mother, Mr. Paul Hoyt, on today. What's even greater about this situation is we get to lean into his wisdom of over 50 years in personal development and in business. That if you are a entrepreneur, a CEO, a business owner, someone that's doing it online or offline, you want to find some time to strap up, find a seat. Oh man, because we got a treat for you today. So I would like to first give a warm welcome to my brother Paul Hoyt. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thanks, Paz. I've really been looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. Oops, you froze on me. Was that me? Or was that you? We may have had a technical issue. I don't know if we're still live streaming or not, so I will keep talking.
Yes, there you go.
There we are.
There you go. You're
back. Did we freeze for a second there?
Yes, you did.
All right.
Right after I said my brother Paul and gave you a clap, you froze. So welcome to the show. That's why we don't have to be perfect, right? This is a live stream. And when you're live streaming, things aren't always going to be perfect, right? What do you think about the word perfection, right? And the need, right, for so many of us to be perfect?
Oh my golly geez. Well, early in life, I think we learned that perfection, and to me, the word perfection means that incapable of improvement. So, I don't know that there are very few things that are perfect in this world. However, art to me sometimes can be perfect. Expressions in artistic endeavors can be perfect because you can change them and you can be different, but you can't be better. So there are things there that I really love that can be perfect, but businesses are never perfect. Myself personally, I'm not ever perfect, although I have moments where I am perfect for a few minutes or a few hours at a time. But we all need to deal with those imperfections, in some way.
Yes. One of the things that I've always say, I thank God for not making me perfect, but always giving me something to strive for. And one of the reasons I tell people I'm never going to be a grown up because I got to keep on growing. Right?
Yeah.
There used to be that commercial back in the days. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid, right? I don't want to. We have to grow, but do we, do we have to become these grown-ups, these stuffy people that can't continue to learn, right? They tell us an old dog can't learn new tricks, right? So I love that you talk about perfection, but I'd like to really give people, a little insight into my love for you. So why don't you tell the world, right? Before we go into mind sequencing, which is such amazing, powerful stuff. Who was Paul Hoyt and how did he get into the personal development world? And more importantly, for some people, how did you then take that and get into, doing big business with big corporations?
Well, it was a parallel track. When I went to college, and in college, I kind of started on this journey. One journey was the journey of business and learning to be an entrepreneur, learning to be a businessman. I've spent 30 years in the information systems industry. I started programming computers in 1970 when I was 18 years old and worked in that industry for a long time. And then for the last 23 years, I've been a business consultant. So I've been focused on the ins and outs, the way that business is being done for, well over 50 years. But at the same time, I was also doing my inner work. Um, and the reason I was doing, focusing on business was because I wanted the good things in life, right? I wanted to buy a house, have a good car, have a great family, have a little money stashed away for buy some things and go traveling and that sort of stuff. But excuse me, the reason I started on inner work was because I was unhappy, because I was tense and nervous and anxious and stressed out, bitter, sarcastic, cynical, almost all of the time. At one point in time, when I was 19 years old, I figured out that I was really only happy about 20 minutes a day. That's about 2% of the time. If you're awake 16 hours and 16 and a third hours or 2/3 hours, then every 1% of your day is 10 minutes. And I was only happy about 20 minutes a day, and that was only 2%. And I really knew that I needed to make a change. I was fortunate enough to be able to learn meditation, and I found a meditation that worked for me. I gave myself permission twice a day just to let go of all of my tension and stress, once in the morning and once on the way home from work or when I got home from work, to take 20 minutes out and just let go of all that tension and stress, knowing that all those problems and troubles and work was going to be there when I was done. But I gave myself the chance to do that. And I started reading personal development books and self-help books and began working on myself to relieve my tension and stress, to decrease my, to increase my health and happiness, and to boost my performance. And it really worked. Over the course of the next 10 years or so, I became somebody who was no longer cynical and sarcastic and bitter all the time. I became an A player in a business environment, a cheerful and fun guy to be around. And I was only angry like 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. I only got pissed off at people that often a day. I still had a temper, I still had an edge, but it was much, much better than it was before. Then over the course of the next 40 years of inner work, I've grown enormously, to be a person of great love and light and kindness and wisdom and forgiveness. I've read so many masters and meditated and prayed so many times and found my own techniques and my own practices to focus my attention, shift my energy, and lift my spirits anytime and anywhere. But it was about 15 years ago that I discovered the relationship in between wanting to be a great business professional and doing my inner work and just wanting to be the best person that I could be. And that relationship comes in two ways. One of them is internal, in increasing confidence and increasing poise and patience and stamina and just feeling better to boost your own performance. And one of those ways is external. It's the way that you relate to other people. In the science of emotional intelligence, we talk about how self-awareness skills, self-management skills, social awareness skills, and relationship management skills can come together to really boost your career. And that is the relationship between doing your inner work and having that help you in your outer work. The reason we become confident, kind, loving, friendly, cheerful, powerful people is so that we can have better relationships and we can inspire other people. And people will want to work with us and for us if we are a person of great, great positive energy. One of my favorite quotes goes something like this. I've learned a lot about business and I've made a lot of money in the work that I've done for other people, but all of my health and happiness, all of my peace and wisdom, and all of my love has come from the work that I've done on myself. And every business breakthrough has been preceded by a personal breakthrough of some kind.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I'm glad that you shared that. But I wanted to highlight because you said something amazing and major during that last set of words, right? That you created your own sequence for you to be able to tap into being your best self. So I'd love for you to tell us what that sequence, what that is. What do you call it? And first of all, how does someone begin?
Well, let's talk about how I discovered it. I talked about from the age of 19 to the age 30, I really made a lot of progress on my inner journey. But then I kind of got stuck for 25 years. I didn't make a lot of progress in between the time I was 30 and 55 on my inner work. But at 55, I had a real breakthrough. And that breakthrough happened on the morning of October the 31st, 2004, almost 20 years ago. I woke up one morning being grumpy, as I had a tendency to wake up being grumpy in the mornings, and oh man, I got another day, and I'm a little bit sore, and blah blah blah, and I'm tired, and went down to my computer and was a little bit grumpy, and I said, if I could just remember all these things that I've learned, and remember all this wisdom that I've read, I know I'd be a healthier and happier person. And it occurred to me to ask myself the question, well, if you were going to remember that stuff, what is it that you would remember? And I started writing it down. I'd remember who I was, husband, father, co-worker, etc. I'd remember where I was on this beautiful planet, this incredible speck of dust hurtling through the cosmos, going who knows where. I remember where I was in the timeline of my life. I'd remember this incredible power that we have inside of us and how we can tap into that power, and this beautiful, beautiful spirit that we have. And that became a message to myself. I called it my Remember message. Turned out to be a 45-minute CD that I recorded and published. And I listened to that message twice a day for probably 3 or 4 years. And twice a day, it really, really lifted my spirits. And then I decided I wanted more. I wanted to be that person that I was after listening to that message during the day. And I began to experiment in ways to make that happen. My first big insight in that journey came from just sitting in the quiet one day, and I came across this word that immediately boosted my energy. And the word was jubilation. And when I read that word jubilation, I could just feel it, that there was a zing, there was something. And I realized that words were labels on concepts and words were labels on energy. And if I could just focus my attention on the right words, it would trigger that energetic response that would allow me to feel the way that I wanted to feel. And I began to experiment with words, and I looked at synonyms of words, and I found the synonyms of jubilation, happiness, cheerfulness, laughter, amusement, merriment, glee. And then I found other synonyms and came up with 2,497 words that all were powerful words to me. And they represented about 1,463 concepts, because triumph and triumphant and victory and victorious and successful are all kind of the same energies. And I began to experiment with synonyms of words. What I found was if I told myself courage, that I would be a little bit more courageous. But if I would say to myself courage, daring, bravery, and boldness, that it would boost my energy even more. So I began to focus on what I call now energetic focus. Then one day I was out walking my dog, and I was trying to relax a little bit, and it just wasn't working. I was not able to shift my energy in the way that I wanted to. So I began to think to myself, what do I got to do? Well, first, I guess I got to see the gap. I got to see where I am now and where I want to be. And then I got to believe that if I focus enough time and attention, that I can close that gap. And when I do, I'm going to feel better. And then I've got to choose to actually spend the time necessary to do that. And then I can shift, and then I can be the person I want to be and feel the way I want to feel. So that became my golden sequence. I see, I believe, I choose, I shift, I am. I see, I believe, I choose, I shift, I am. And that became my first sequence. And since that time, I have discovered hundreds and hundreds of sequences of thought and action that allowed me to shift my energy and eventually package them into a program I call mind sequencing. Mind sequencing teaches people to think the thoughts they want to think so they can feel the way they want to feel and be the person that they want to be anytime and anywhere. Whether you're in a board meeting, in a conversation with somebody else, driving down the road in a car, Being in a presentation like this, you can think the thoughts you want to think to shift your energy anytime and anywhere. And that became the genesis of mind sequencing.
I love it. I love it because mind sequencing is very powerful. I've been blessed to be able to utilize the mind sequencing program and have been coached in mind sequencing. You know, my first mind sequence I didn't even realize was a mind sequence until I started doing mind sequencing. My first mind sequence was thoughts plus feelings plus actions equal happiness,
Love it.
right? Paying attention to what you're thinking, what you're feeling. But if you don't ever take any action on it, it'll spiral back the other way. So you got to take that action so that you can, continue to maintain that happiness. So yes, this is amazing. And I love that we're talking about mind sequencing because for entrepreneurs and leaders, right, they need to have some kind of structure in order to create, a culture of gratitude within their organizations. I think a lot of times many organizations and businesses fail because they don't pay attention to the emotions and of the people that
Yeah.
actually work these businesses, that support these businesses. Not everybody is going to be motivated by money. Some people are going to be motivated by time freedom, and other things. So, um, when we're starting to talk mind sequencing, how does mind sequencing help others become better leaders within their organizations, within their businesses, maybe just within their homes, right? Because the first team in any business is home team. Well, if home is out of order, it's hard for you to focus in other places.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it becomes a tool that we can use to develop the skill of extreme self-awareness and incredible self-management skills. We develop the habit of checking in with ourselves, of being real with ourselves about how am I feeling right now? How am I acting right now? And developing the habit of shifting our energy whenever we find that there's room for improvement. When it comes to the relationships with other people, one of the things that I began practicing many years ago was a simple sequence that goes like this: I love you, I love you, I love you, be happy. I love you, I love you, be strong. I love you, I love you, I love you, be happy. I love you, I love you, be strong. And I got into the habit of whenever I started to feel a little tension and stress, whenever I started to feel a little bit being a little bit defensive, whenever I started to feel a little bit anxious about a conversation that I was in with somebody else, I developed the habit of simply saying that to myself. And it takes me out of that tension and stress and puts me back where I want to be, which is a loving, kind, nurturing, forgiving, tender, merciful, compassionate person towards that person that I'm interacting with. If people just did that in a business environment, whenever they started to feel a little bit of tension and start dealing with, if you're a customer service agent and the person on the phone you can tell is having a bad time, they're upset and they're worried and they're angry about something that has not worked out the way they wanted it to, just to think to yourself while they're expressing their anger and their frustration to you, just to think to yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you, be happy, I love you, be strong, takes you out of being defensive and puts you into that position of being a caregiver, of a nurturer, of a helper, of an assistant, of a supporter. And the same thing goes with in working relationship with your colleagues. When you're starting to feel a little bit upset, or when you sense that they are starting to feel that they're a little upset, be able to practice that art, that skill, that science of catching yourself and shifting your energy is invaluable. By the way, we teach that to our kids. When little Johnny screws up and throws a block and hits little Susie in the head, we tell Johnny, you don't do that. Go sit in the corner, tell your sister you're sorry. etc. We teach them to regulate their emotional state and control their temper, but we stop there. We don't teach them the amazing power they have, not just to be calm or to be comfortable, but to boost their energy even more by thinking wonderful thoughts. So, mind sequencing in its in its simplest form is a technique that allows you to continue the journey that little Bobby is on when whenever he throws a little block at his sister. To continue that journey of refocusing your attention, of pivoting the focus of your attention to the energy that you seek so that you can feel the way you want to feel and be the person you want to be.
That is awesome. That goes back to my simple phrase of live like a toddler, right? A toddler, when we were toddlers, we can fall down and get back up. Like I love spending time with my granddaughter. She reminds me of what it looks like to be fearless, right? She's still so young that she busted her head a few weeks ago, wiped it off, and kept going. She didn't even realize she was bleeding. We had to stop her. But living like a toddler, right, to right to be able to make those mistakes that you may need to make and be able to forgive yourself, to be
Yeah,
able to really see what it looks like to stumble, fall, and get up again, and just keeping it so simple. What I always say, a toddler will listen with their they will listen with their eyes and see with their ears, right? Because they're going to see what you're doing more than anything else. They're going to pay attention, right, to what you're saying. You can't tell a child don't smoke while smoking because they're only going to see the action. So I love what what you were talking about here. Really living out that example, for any
yeah,
organization or leader to lead.
yeah. I want every person out there to realize the value of inner work, the value of building the habit and building the skill of self-awareness and self-management, and how that can benefit them in every area of their life, in their home environment, in their work environment, just simply every area of their life. The power of focused attention is, I think, the most powerful skill, in the entire world. When we focus our attention on the energy that we seek, we bring that into our lives immediately. And that, let me share with you, if I weigh in, the listeners, something I want to give away to everybody in the world, and it's called the Path of Three Questions. It is an example of mind sequencing, and I want to give that away to everybody. So, question number one is, who am I when I'm at my best? I want everybody to know who they are when they are at their best. In fact, the very first exercise in the mind sequencing program, what you're supposed to do before you show up for the first meeting is make a list of all of the positive characteristics of yourself, just to really become friends with who you are when you are at your best. Make your best self your very best friend. And question number one is, who am I when I'm at my best? So that you are reminded of your capability, reminded of the greatness that you have within us. Question number two is, how am I feeling right now? And that requires self-honesty, to really check in and say, man, well, my body's a little bit, shaky here. I'm feeling a little bit here. I guess I was a little bit grumpy. I'm a little bit on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm only a 4 or a 5 or a 7 or however I am, and being honest with yourself. And then comes question number three, which is, how do I want to feel right now? And as soon as you ask yourself that question, you begin drawing into your current experience the energy you seek. When you say to yourself, I want to be more confident, you immediately start to be more confident. When you say to yourself, well, I want to relax, you immediately begin to relax. And it may take a while to focus your attention on being patient, poised, and confidence, or relaxing and releasing and letting go and surrendering and feeling the way you want. But question number three, you immediately start on that journey. And if you don't, or you're not making progress enough, Ask yourself question 4 and 5. Question 4 is, what is stopping me from feeling the way I want to feel right now? And question 5 is, what am I willing to do right now to feel the way that I want to feel? And that's the path of 3 questions with with the 2 extra bonus questions. And the beauty of this path is, once you practice it enough, it becomes the path of 1 question. And that path of that 1 question is question number 3, the magic question: how do I want to feel right now? I want to feel alert, brilliant, eloquent, sharp, confident, playful, powerful, and free, feisty, energized, and optimistic. I want to feel loving and kind and cheerful and gleeful and supporting and encouraging other people. I want to be of service to other people. I want to be a friend to other people. I want to be somebody that they can trust, somebody that they know will always be there and will see the best in them. And when you focus your attention on the person that you already are, you become that great, that beautiful, wonderful person more and more often.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you for sharing that awesome feeling. And there are people out here who are watching this and going, I thought this was about business. But Jay-Z said it probably the best, right? I am not a businessman. I'm the business man. So what you are on the inside, right, will start to reflect who you are on the outside. So I love that you're giving them this, but I want to give them a little background on who you are on the business side, because you've done some remarkable things. That people don't understand how mind sequences actually equates to big business. I'd love for you to tell them a little bit about your crowdfunding experience for building out your folding kayak business. Like, because
I
that
will.
was that was that was amazing to me. Because it came out of nowhere, shot up, and really changed so much.
That was a great experience. You talked about corporate experience. I did work for a lot of very large companies in my career at one point in time. There was a guy named Ross Perot who started a company called EDS, and he ran for president. I think it was in 1980 or something like that. Um, and I worked for EDS for 4 or 5 years. I worked for Oracle. They're still very much around, the #1 database management system in the world today. Worked for them for a few years. So I've worked with some very large companies. Success in crowdfunding came with a company called Origami Paddler. We had a $3.8 million Kickstarter campaign. We just hit the market right at the right time during the first few months of the pandemic, when people really wanted to get out on the water. And it was both a folding kayak and paddleboard combination. And it really went great for 3 or 4 years. It was really a wonderful experience. So I've had the experience working with the smallest companies, some 10-year-old, 12-year-old entrepreneur who just wanted to buy a box of candy bars and then go sell them at school, and make a little money on in the difference in between the price that they paid and the price that they were selling it at, up to billion-dollar companies that are extremely well organized with very consummate business procedures and practices.
Yes, yes, I know. I was blessed to meet you at a marvelous conference, which had, some amazing instructors, and you stood out just there. So I know that, the world is blessed to get just a little bit of your vision. So
Well,
as go ahead.
and I feel blessed about our relationship too. I remember vividly when we met at a conference, and you had such a big smile, and you were the happiness engineer. And I thought to myself, man, this guy is just super. Why doesn't everybody love Paz? And that became the journey that we went down for the next several years in the book that we wrote with each other called Curing
Yes,
Racism, which
yes,
explored the origins of racism and offered some suggestions about how we might be able to cure that in our society. Yeah, so that positive energy makes a huge difference. The positive energy that you shared with me, the positive energy that I shared with you, the positive journey that we share with our clients and with our colleagues, you can make a huge difference in people's lives. It's not just the numbers, it's not just, the words on the paper. It is the feeling that we share with other people, the encouragement, the support, the positive energy that flows into us and through us out into the world.
Amen. I love it. And I love that you brought up curing racism. I would have went there, but you went there first. Especially in today's climate and today's political climate, we have two very different candidates. I don't want to make this into politics, but we want to talk about, the effect on life, and
Yeah.
curing racism. One of the things that we discovered in curing racism, right, is the big falsehood that people have subscribed to, that there's a such thing as racism, right? We realize that it's bigger than just racism because we're all one race, God's human divine race, but we're split up into many different things. So I'd love for you to dive into, you know, curing racism, how we got there, some of the things that you learned in doing the research together.
Well, I did ask that question about, why didn't everybody love Paz? Why do some people look at Paz and because he has dark chocolate skin, um, that, look at him as if he were, somebody to be afraid of, or somebody that wasn't quite as worthy as the people who have pale white skin like I do. Um, and so I began doing the research, and the research into this human race and the power of tribes, and how we as a species cannot exist without families and could not exist without tribes, and how when tribes evolved in different parts of the world, so we had different characteristics, our skin color, our eye color, our languages, our culture, our habits, our deities, all of that stuff developed separately. I call that evolution in isolation. We tribes evolved, but they evolved separately. And then when tribes began to overlap or come together and began to compete for resources, then we began to see, you know, see conflict in between the tribes. And that conflict was magnified when that other tribe did not look like us, act like us, dress like us, talk like us. And that was I believe, the history of the racist problem that we had throughout the world. And it started simultaneously all over the world. Racism exists, in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in the United States, in South America, in every continent that there is. Our tribal instincts have us give us the tendency to be afraid of people who do not look like us, act like us, dress like us, and talk like us. So, that deep dive into the origins of it was really, I think, the key to understanding how we cure it. How we can effectively deal with it today. And the biggest thing, by the way, the biggest way that we take a step towards curing it is to make friends with people who don't look like us, act like us, talk like us. Is for me to make a friend of Paz, for Paz to make a friend of me, for us to seek out people who look different than us and seek to share our common values with them. Because when we all get together and we ask people what we value, it usually comes down to a few very precious things: our relationship with the divine, our families, our health and our happiness, and the relationships that we have with others outside our family. Those become the things that we value in life. And when we focus on our values and our common values, we come to realize that that person who doesn't look like me is, in fact, a lot like me.
I love that you went there, that we actually are more alike than we are different, because what we are taught to do is highlight our differences.
Yep.
Paul is white and bald. Paz is black with hair. You know, uh, Paul has a beard. Mine only grows in when it wants to. Right? We're taught to put up all of these different differences, right? Which causes tribes within tribes, right? Which is how we get to a January 6th, or we get to, inner conflicts in inner cities, because we're not taught to value, right, the individual. And I guess that's Hindu namaste, right? Is that Hindu? I don't want to get it
I don't
wrong, but
I don't
namaste, means to salute the deity in you, right?
Yes.
We don't, we're not taught, especially in the United States, right, to namaste, right? Just to salute the deity in you. Our friend, Les Brown says it best, right? To see the greatness in you. So if we spent more time, you know, highlighting the greatness in others. Like I'm blessed. I'm surrounded by people like you. So I get to tell people, hey, my friend Paul, my brother Paul is amazing. If you need a business plan written, there's no better business plan writer. If you need to get your mind focused, there's no one better. So, surrounding yourself and creating your own tribe, right? How many
Yeah.
people are in tribes that they didn't create? They're just they just accept it.
Yeah. I love it. Whew.
Yeah,
That's a great
yeah.
conversation, Kaz.
Oh man, and it's a beautiful thing, right? Because that's, as we reflect on it, because that's what I really got out of curing racism. You know,
Yeah.
how many tribes have we just accepted that we're in? You know, um, I there was a time, because I grew up in Harlem, and in the '80s, they were telling me I wouldn't live past 25, right?
Mm.
And we accepted that tribe. We were the tribe that wouldn't live past 25. So we acted like we wouldn't live like past 25. We behaved like we wouldn't live past 25. And we were all surprised when we got to 26. Right? Right. So how many, different tribes have we accepted? And I'd love for you to talk about that, right? How many different tribes have people just accepted because that's what was said around them, versus being more like, in mind sequencing, being more introspective on why I'm a part of this tribe.
There's we're always born into a tribe. We're born into a family, and we're born into a tribe. That the people around us. It's very very rare that a family will not be a member of a tribe, and typically the tribe is, your individual culture, whether that's the culture of Dallas, Texas, or the culture of New York City, or the culture of Los Angeles, or wherever. We have those larger tribes that we are a member of, and sometimes there is a religious or a spiritual community that we are born into. Our fathers and our mothers take us to that community, and we get our early teaching on the relationship between man and the divine, from those particular things. Then we join tribes at schools, and we join tribes at colleges, and you root for the Texas Longhorns, and I root for the Oklahoma Sooners, and we get into the tribes that are associated with our educational environments. Then there's the tribes of our business environments. You're a Facebook guy, and I'm a Twitter guy, and you're a Microsoft, and I'm an Apple. And we get into the tribes associated with that, and we find our communities of like-minded people and we in these days we find them in social media. Whatever we believe, whether we believe that the moon is made of cheese and the earth is flat, we can find hundreds of thousands of people who believe just the same thing that we believe, and we can find groups and tribes, anywhere online and Facebook and LinkedIn, no matter what we believe. So we live in a world of many, many tribes. But the key lesson here is, you are not your tribe. I am not all of those tribes. I am an individual. I am unique. You are an individual. You are unique. You are not your tribe. And learn to understand the influence that that tribe is having over you and stand on your own 2 feet. Declare to yourself that I am not this tribe or that tribe. I am independent and I can think for myself and act for myself. And if I ever decide that I want to change tribes, you can rest assured that there are those out there who will welcome you into a tribe that feels differently and acts differently. Oops, I can't hear you, Paz. Testing, 1, 2, 3. A little bit of imperfection going on here. We have lost Paz's audio. He's going to get it fixed, though. I got confidence in him. He's smiling. Well, you know, I could keep talking for hours and hours. Let me just share.
There, the mute button came on and wouldn't come off. Me now?
Oh man, I can. Yep. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Well, now you're not. Now you are. Oops, it's coming and going. Maybe
for some reason the mute button had just kicked in, you know. But that's why it don't got to be perfect. It just we got to stay. You got to get started, you know, and you got to stay in motion. Even though I said his name earlier, Les Brown says, you know, fail forward as many times as you need to, as long as you find success. So, you know, I didn't see that as a failure. We had a little hiccup, right? But it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be said and be done. So I love what you're talking about here. You know, really, I realized in my life, no matter what tribe I was supposed to be a part of, I was always an oddball, right? Like I was a nerdy gangster. Like I was a gangster that wanted to read books, right? I was, you know, I was a sensitive thug. You know, I was someone who played with guns and wanted to give you a hug anyway. You know, I never really fit, you know, in any of those things because most of those things weren't really me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They were personas, they were places, things that I accepted because of my environment until I realized that I can actually control not only my environment, but how I behave in my environment. Like I can be around gang members, give them a big hug and not become a gang member. Right? Yeah. I can be around gun violence and actually take the gun away. All right. I can be the one who can actually help you take the gun away. You know, so really understanding, you know, your power within your tribe, right? Understanding what tribe you're in and understanding the power within that tribe. I love for you to, you know, dive into that, you know, because I think when we're building a business, that is so key as well.
I'm gonna defer that conversation because I need to run here in just a minute or so. Because I got another thing that I'm doing in 10 minutes. But if people are really interested to learn more about tribes and the nature of tribes, I have my own community called the Focused Mind Community. And for the first 6 episodes of that in the first of this year, we went a deep dive into the nature of tribes. And I encourage you to take a look at that if you want to learn more about tribes and how they impact us and what makes a good tribe and what makes a bad tribe and what is a cult. And you can look at that. There's 6 different recordings there about the nature of tribes. And that brings me to, you know, a couple of things that I encourage you to take a look at. If you want to learn more about what I do and how I help other people, you can join the Focused Mind community at focusedmindcommunity.com. If you're in business and you're looking for a little help in developing and executing your growth plans, you want to talk to somebody, you want to have somebody on your team who cares about you and has 50 years of business experience, you can look me up at paulhoyt.com. And if you're interested in mind sequencing, if you're interested in taking that next step in your own inner work, in your own personal development, if you're interested in building one of the most valuable skills of your lifetime, then you can look that up at mindsequencing.com.
I love it. I love it. I love that you gave them all the ways to find you, contact you, and all the ways to work with you, because each one of those businesses, each one of those experiences is something different and another part of you, but it also gives them a way to grow. So I want to thank you, for joining us, for going through the imperfection. You know, there's a young lady here in my city who says imperfection is beautiful. So dealing with the imperfection that it took to put this show together, but sharing so many wonderful jewels with the world. So before we go, I'd love for you to do what we've done every day since we've been here, is to share in my personal manifesto so that we can encourage others to keep on pushing. So my first personal manifesto goes like this: I love me. I'm worthy. Some people may not like me, but I don't care, because the people that matter will be glad that I'm here. So I ask for you to repeat it after me, because we know that people love you and they need to hear more about you. So, ready? I love me.
I love me.
I'm worthy.
I'm worthy.
Some people may not like me,
Some people may not like me,
but I don't care,
but I don't care,
because the people that matter
because the people that matter
will be glad that I'm here.
will be glad that I am here.
And we were glad that you were here for us today, Paul. We are glad that you were able to share with us, mind sequencing, that you talked about curing racism, that you reminded them, right, that you have 50 years of business experience. If you need a business plan writer, if you need to know how to attract big money, if you need to make sure you're actually prepared to receive big money, because you may attract it and not be prepared to receive it, you need to get with Paul Hoyt. Go to paulhoyt.com. If you need to get your mindset right, make sure you join in mind sequencing. And if you want to be a part of a community of awakened CEOs and a community of people that are living in a, you know, cooperative capitalism space, go to his Focus Mind community and you could benefit from all he has to offer. I'm so glad to call this man my brother. So, Paul, I'm going to let you have the last words.
My last words is the way I like to close every conversation, and it goes like this: until we meet again, be brave, be strong, be wise, and as much as you possibly can, love everybody and everything all the time. Good night.
Good night. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to get started. See you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, and we're going to be sharing some great things with you. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Good night.